Hello, fellow future enthusiasts. On Demystifying, we do deep dives on science, futurism, and speculative technology. My name is Thor, and I will be your host today. When undeniable evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence's interaction with humans emerges in the near future, what will this mean for the security and existence of nations as we know them? This is a complex topic with a lot of assumptions. We can cut through the gray areas by realizing this is fundamentally a classic problem in ontology.
You know, I've been asked that question hundreds of times. Do you believe in aliens? And I say, yeah. Have you ever seen one? I say, yeah, I have. Well, how have you seen them? Well, I said, I look in the mirror every morning. Because that's what we are. We are the aliens, but we just think they're somebody else, but we're the ones who came from somewhere else. Because somebody else had to survive, and they got in a little spacecraft, and they came here, and they landed, and they started civilization here. That's what I believe. And if you don't believe me, go get books on the ancient Sumerians and see what they had to say.
That's a whole different discussion.
According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, many classical philosophical problems are problems in ontology. The question whether or not there is a god, or the problem of the existence of universals, etc. These are all problems in ontology in the sense that they deal with whether or not a certain thing, or more broadly entity, exists. This distinction is not only important to the future of human-ETI relationship, but also serves to explain why historically it's been preferable to keep ETI presence under wraps. Simply present it as a philosophically incoherent idea, and nobody can believe in it, right? Before moving forward, we need to look at the role of the state. The state exists primarily to provide security and stability at the cost of some freedoms to its citizens. In political science, we call this relationship the social contract. This contract has more far-reaching implications than just daily life. It influences our perspective not only on the world, but on the universe as well. Social contracts assume the government in question can protect its citizens from threats and guarantees our reality does not stray outside of some prescribed state of stability. The existence of ETI means all tenets the social contract upholds are based in false assumptions. If the existence of ETI is acknowledged, national security becomes irrelevant. Because of this, any interaction with ETI are likely to become a perceived risk to our current values, and thus threaten the social contract. For our purposes, there are two types of events throughout history we can look at to gain insight on ETI contact. First, we can look at human contact between very different cultures, though this is only useful for learning how humans will react. One prominent example is the meeting between Native Americans and Europeans during the periods of European discovery. Second, there are historical events we suspect may have been instigated or influenced by these non-human intelligences. There's usually speculation around these things, but they should be considered if we're going to make assertions about how ETI interacts with humans. Ignoring our past is an obvious mistake. There are some conclusions we can draw outright by simply accepting the premise of our discussion. Historical ETI contact is evidence that this phenomena seeks to perpetuate itself, so it's not going away anytime soon. As far as the state is concerned, ETI contact is more of a constant than a new reality. In the past, presidents, religious leaders, astronauts, and many others have suggested that non-human interactions have been occurring behind the scenes for what amounts to decades, or depending who you ask, centuries, and it also depends how you look at the evidence. If we do accept ETI has been present on Earth in our recent history and also our more distant past, there's no way of knowing where the thread ends. Access to ETI-originated technology will bring with it an explosion of publicly maintained industries. Today, we have people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos who pursue space travel on their own coffers. Interactions with ETI lowers the access cost to space to the point where private groups may gain access to interplanetary or interstellar flight overnight. So, assuming we are not alone and that the ETI presence is local, there are two possibilities. ETI are visiting Earth, or they are residents of this planet and not ETI at all. This implies we should be using other terms than ETI, like non-human intelligence, but even this carries an assumption. The phenomena we see may fit into the crypto-terrestrial category and might be human, meaning we're interacting with some more advanced offshoot of either our last common ancestor or some later hominid, or actual human. The outcome to realizing Earth is host to ETI is going to be difficult to predict accurately, so we're better off looking at how people and society react to ontological threats in general than to little green men or to Bigfoot. National security is most concerned with the consequences of a major loss of confidence in the state apparatus. In the midst of an ETI contact event, society will no doubt quickly reorganize its identity around this new reality. Such outcomes can be expected when the broader understanding of reality every one of us grew up with and were nurtured with has been fundamentally changed. Alexander Wendt of Ohio State University has concerned themselves with the psychology of state failure, listing potential reactions as greed, fear, or wonder. These are very general categories, and again we're talking about how national security sees this issue. National security anticipates the worst possible outcome by design, so it's not reasonable to assume widespread panic if ETI disclosure happens suddenly, even if military sources describe that sort of situation. The situation is simply unpredictable, and that alone makes it considered dangerous by the state. The proportion of the population which responds with wonder is still considered a potential threat to the state. The wonder response may not involve panic, but it can feed into the other responses such as fear and greed. Acknowledging that this is how our governments perceive disclosure is an inconvenient reality, but it needs to be done. These are not necessarily the best interests of our species, they're simply the best interests of a perpetual government. Although our history and logic suggests ETI mean us no harm, widespread contact with ETI could precipitate a collapse of human society and civilization. Research suggests humans may find the shock of contact to cause a loss of ideological and national identity. Humans are very adaptive though, and it seems certain to me that we will be able to recover from any such event as we have in the past. All prior belief systems and ethical structures will become unstable since the human-centric reality we've assembled our society upon would be outmoded in a moment. There are several ways of looking at a potential collapse of civilization in this context, and we should do this since it's the most dire outcome. Every individual will react differently to disclosure, with the majority finding it a source of existential motivation. It would be responsible to prepare a global network to observe and coordinate human interaction with ETI so that violence does not arise resulting from bad actor activity. While we often think about what might happen in a changed human paradigm in the years following contact, we typically do not extend our thought experiments far into the future of likely outcomes outside of science fiction. I think it's important to note that contact with a local ETI is the first step in a marathon adventure for the human species. The paradigm we find ourselves in immediately after contact will most likely continue to change as the human experience widens quickly. In other words, contact is a spark that will set alight the fabric of social and political reality, a process of transformation with no obvious end state. The sci-fi series Obsolete sees an exchange program between a mysterious alien presence and modern humans, where psychically controlled robotic suits are traded for sandstone by the ton.
This is being broadcast on all radio frequencies in 5 languages. We do not wish to be involved in politics or cultural exchange. We only wish to trade. For every 1,000 kilograms of limestone, we shall provide you with one of our technological productions. We shall not discriminate between nationality, ethnicity, ideology, or any other discriminator. We offer these terms of exchange, impartially and equally, to all of humanity.
These powerful suits, called exoframes, upset the organization of military power on Earth by allowing poor nations to amass powerful labor and military forces, leading to widespread conflict. What if cheap anti-gravity, zero-point energy, or biological immortality arrive with contact? How will humans interpret being handed this gift, and how will we use it? Consider an imaginary scenario which also fits all of the evidence we're seeing. Humans make contact with a local ETI which has observation posts on the moon and below Earth's oceans. These entities are shy and standoffish, seemingly interested in monitoring Earth's biodiversity rather than directly engaging in exchange with humans at large. While formal diplomacy does not occur with this ETI, its presence and activity has provided advanced technological insight. Interestingly, these beings seem willing to defend themselves, and are equipped to do so, but signal through their actions that they have peaceful or at least passive intentions. These beings have demonstrated they have the ability to overpower us by disabling our most powerful weapons with minimal effort. This advent of alien presence so close to our home provokes a massive social movement towards understanding the ETI. Why are they here? Who decided their contact protocols? And how long have they been observing Earth? So many unanswered questions remain, even after photographs of alien machines and entities become commonplace in human media. Suddenly, amidst all of this, a techno-signature is found on a nearby star, just under 20 light-years away. A second contact event has transpired, before the impacts of the first contact could have been appraised or managed. This comes as a surprise to some, but to others this was expected. The new reality that we coexist with non-humans had compelled a shift in commitments, expanding SETI and leading to a new generation of powerful telescopes. Now that we were taking the search for life seriously, it was only a matter of time before we discovered our interstellar neighbors. The complexity of this situation is the reality we should prepare for, where contact with ETI and other vaguely understood phenomena is constantly expanding, perhaps too quickly for society to manage. The potential for this expansion of awareness to fragment society is a concern. Humans will need to become adaptive both culturally and ontologically to survive this new paradigm. We have in fiction many examples of alien species coming to Earth to trade resources. Trade may represent a beneficial collision of cultures we can use to make progress towards a steady relationship with ETI. Even if these beings do not have an actual need for Earth's resources, they may attempt to establish trade because this is an aspect of our contact culture. Activity such as this has the potential to restructure the global economy as certain resources become prized tokens for ETI artifacts or technology. In this regard, such an act of goodwill could backfire. The sudden increase in valuation of certain resources could provoke conflict on Earth. Again, we are our own worst enemy in this situation. If conflict results from ETI contact, it will be between humans of various identity blocks as our perception of reality changes in unpredictable ways. The organization of human identity will begin to shift away from concerns currently aligned with political, social, and economic values. The identity of all humans on Earth will be linked to their perception of ETI. A situation with no precedent is always considered dangerous in the context of security, and this situation is no different. So, what is the solution to this problem? Well, thankfully there is one. Security operates with assumptions that do not exist in other communities, such as science. Effective security planning anticipates the worst possible outcome. Science, on the other hand, attempts to assess the spectrum of outcomes, a process which requires an intimate understanding of the most mundane outcomes as well as the most dramatic. In the face of contact, the demise of the national security model is seemingly inevitable. This does not have to result in a collapse of the social contract necessarily, there is an obvious alternative. We have the mechanism open to us to rotate the responsibility of ETI interactions from the security community towards the science community. To do so requires we prove ETI are not a security risk. It's easy to enter into a track of circular reasoning here, since ETI historically are not a risk, we know that. Yet, the risk is inherent to how humans accept this new news. So if awareness of ETI causes human society to become dangerous to itself due to unpredictability, no level of disclosure is compatible with security. So this also explains why disclosure has not happened under the security apparatus, which is currently managing it. It appears, in my opinion, we need to engage in two activities to integrate ETI awareness into 21st century human society. 1. Expanding the role of science in interacting with and classifying ETI phenomena, and 2. Minimizing the role of national security as a knee-jerk response to all unexplained phenomena, ETI or not. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe to help beat the algorithm. It's a constant struggle with these topics, let alone with my normal content. So with that having been said, thanks for watching, and good night.